oh my gosh, I can't believe I did. This is the first thing I did that was kind of bad. And then there's another one that's kind of bad too, but it was later on. So what's up, everybody? I am so excited to be finally filming this video because I've been really busy since field training ended. I'm not gonna go over everything that happened, but I've been busy. So this video has been a long time coming because I've been doing field training for a while. But this video is not only gonna be me going over field training and my experience down there and everything in general, but I'm also gonna be going more in depth, did I say that right? Yeah. About different stories that happened to my flight and me while I was down there. Some funny, some just awkward. Mainly the awkward ones were the ones that happened to me, of course, because who would I be if I didn't have any awkward stories? But yeah, let's just hop right into the video. So first, I had a lot of people ask me, well, not a lot of people, but I had a few people ask me how physically demanding it is down there, because I was talking about how tired I constantly was. It's not because you're doing a lot of physical activity, it's just you're mentally drained because you're waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning and you're constantly having to think. And I know that sounds really dumb, but you're constantly having to be able to think on your feet. You're constantly being evaluated, and when you wake up in the morning, you never know what position you're gonna have. And you could wake up that morning and be squadron commander, and it's just a lot of anxiety, I guess, you have while you're down there because you never know what's going to happen the next day, and every morning it's something new. Just because you're not in a position such as flight commander, that doesn't mean you're not going to be evaluated, so you're constantly having to stay alert and just know what's going on and be able to answer questions on the fly. So for those of you who don't know, I'm gonna go over it really quickly. You're gonna have 4 CTAs per squadron because you're gonna have 1 per flight, and then you're also gonna have a squadron CTA, and then you're gonna have 4 FTOs because you're gonna have 1 per flight and then 1 for the whole squadron. So I'm gonna just go into kind of my stories. Let's start with the night before I left for field training, because I was so dumb. I procrastinated so bad. I started laundry marking everything at 4 o'clock, I think it was, and I didn't finish until maybe... Something else I wanted to mention is the biggest reason why it took me so long to pack is because I rolled everything before I went down there and put rubber bands around it, because you won't have enough time when you get down there to roll everything. I don't know. It was a long time. I was up until 2:30 the night before I had to leave to go to field training, and then I woke up at 3:30 in the morning, so I got an hour of sleep, which was such a bad thing to do because I was exhausted. I didn't sleep on the plane because it was freezing, and then you get there, you step off the bus and they're already yelling at you. You run over to where you have to go over to, and then you line up, and then they're telling you, walk here, walk there, line up to this line, but don't look at the line, make sure your eyes are caged, and all this stuff. And I was just like, I'm not ready for this, because I was just so tired. And so that was kind of TD0. It honestly wasn't too bad. I mentioned this in my previous video, but TD0, when you land in Atlanta, it's not that bad, and then once you get to Maxwell, it gets worse, but it's not horrible because you're doing a lot of paperwork in the beginning, and then you go to your flight and you have your interview, and then after that you're just unpacking your bag and getting everything organized. But it depends on what time you get there, because the people who got there later didn't have as much time to put their stuff away. Like my roommate, Cadet Parker, hey, what's up? She didn't get there until maybe 2 hours after I did. I don't know. I know that she got there later and I got there at 5, I think. But so our suite mate, one of them, she didn't get there until I think it was midnight or 1 in the morning on TD0, so technically it was TD1, and her bag also got lost, so she didn't have any of her clothes, anything with her until I don't think she got it until 2 days later. That's really crappy, and I never thought something like that would happen to anyone, but it happened to my suite mate, which is horrible. It was just the worst thing ever, and then she couldn't have as much time to put away her stuff. But yeah, so just prepare for that. Just prepare for the worst. The first couple of days are gonna be rough because you're getting adjusted to everything. You're waking up at 4 in the morning, and I definitely wasn't used to that. I was used to going to bed at 2 in the morning, so waking up at 4 was not the easiest, and the way that they wake you up is obviously not gonna be nice. Also, TD1, okay, So I don't know what we were doing. I think that we had just come back from, I don't know where we came back from, but our CTA said cadets Melvin and someone else stay behind, and I didn't know what was going on. I was like, what's going on? And I had to go meet with our FTO, and I honestly had no idea what was going on. So I reported. He had my orders on his desk, and he said, do you know how I got these? In my head I was like, are you a magician? Because I honestly have no idea how you got those. So if you don't know, you keep orders with you, and then you also keep the rest of your orders in your security drawer, and your security drawer has to be locked at all times. And so I didn't know how he got my orders. I honestly was like, no, I have no clue how you got them. I didn't say it like that, obviously. I was like, no sir, I think I just said no sir, I don't know. He said that he got them from my security drawer, and I was like, I know I locked my security drawer. I just know it, because that's something really bad. A Form 17 is bad. I don't know if those of you who are watching know that how bad it is, but a 341 is something that's not that bad. We got a lot of them, but if you get 3 341s in the same thing, you get a Form 17, and if you get, I think, 2 Form 17s, then you have to talk to, I don't know, it's really, really bad. Just know that it's really bad. And I got one the very first day, and it was because I locked my drawer, but what I did was I moved my combination over, because it wasn't a spinning lock. It was the one where you put 3 different numbers. And what I did was I twisted each number one time, so that I was trying to save time, so that when I came back I would just have to twist it once and unlock it, like each number one time. And I guess they knew that cadets did that, and so they did that to my lock and opened my drawer and got my orders. So that's a security violation. You get a Form 17 for that. You better know that I scrambled up my lock as much as I could after that. Also, while you're down there, you get letters. And before we left, we wrote letters. Our what are they called? Oh my god. Our FTP trainers, they had us write a letter to ourselves, and I thought it was the most corny thing ever. I really didn't want to do it, but I did it. They were passing out mail, and they said, Cadet Melvin, and I was like, yay! And then it was just a letter for myself.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
So I didn't even open it. Oh, so a funny story about how I messed up again. Gosh, I can't believe I did. This is the first thing I did that was kind of bad, and then there's another one that's kind of bad too, but it was later on. But this is TD1. I was the supply officer. There was a lot of things that people didn't get passed out, because you're supposed to get a hydration system, you get the Camelback, and then you also get a bladder, and then you also supposed to get 2 pens and this and that and 341s. A lot of people were missing stuff, so they kept saying, Cadet Melvin, can you come outside your door? Because that's how you have to talk to each other. Like, you post outside your door, and then you make your statement, whatever, and then you go back inside your room. So I had a bunch of people saying, Cadet Melvin, can you post outside your door? And I would go out there, and I was just running back and forth so much. And then my CTA said, Cadet Melvin, can you post outside your door? And at this point, I had no idea what his voice sounded like. I didn't know it was him. I have no idea what I was doing, but I said, yeah, hold on a second. But it was my CTA, and he was like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll hold on a second. I was like, how could you do that? So yeah, I did that, and I was like, you're off to a great start. Also, another thing that I did that was really stupid, which I talked about this kind of in my last video, not really, I didn't tell what happened, but I put a pocket in the back of my FTM. The reason I put a pocket in the back of my FTM was to hold different documents, because I wanted to have them with me at all times, because you always have your FTM with you. So I put a couple of 341s back there, and then a sample memorandum. Yeah, it was TD2 that this happened. I pull out my FTM and I go in the back of it to where the pocket is, and nothing was in there. And I started freaking out because I had just gotten a security violation. So I was like, great, if someone finds my 341, they're probably gonna fill it out and give it to my CTA, and that's gonna be 341 for losing my 341s. I don't know, but I lost my papers that were in there, and I was freaking out. But then I was going through my stuff again, and the papers fell out, but they were actually in between pages of my notebook that they had given us. So I was like, whoo! I was so glad that I didn't actually lose those. So another story that I have is my roommate and I, she had, I mentioned this in my previous video, I keep saying that, but she had this huge thing of vitamin gummies, and one night, it was after lights out, and our CTA stayed after lights out. I don't know if all CTAs did this. I heard that other CTAs didn't. I don't know. But anyways, so he stayed after lights out and like made sure you weren't doing anything you weren't supposed to doing, besides, which is sleeping. You're only supposed to be sleeping. We got the vitamin gummies. This was one of the first nights because we couldn't sleep. We still weren't adjusted to going to bed early. Even though we were exhausted all throughout the day, we weren't adjusted to going to bed at 8 o'clock. So what we did was we put a black dress sock over our flashlight, and it looked like we had put a condom on the flashlight, and we were dying because of that. And then we dropped one of the vitamin gummies on the floor, and we were like, crap, and we were already laughing. And so we're on our hands and knees going around and crawling all around the floor looking for this vitamin gummy. And then we just look at each other, and we were both thinking the same thing. We were thinking, what has our lives come to? Because we're on the ground with a condom sock flashlight and looking for a vitamin gummy in the dark. It was just, I don't know, that was so hilarious to both of us. It was one of those things where you had to be there, but it was really funny to both of us. And after that, we just went to bed. I don't know. Also, another thing that was pretty funny is our across the hall mates, whatever, when you line up at the end of the night, you do foot checks because they check to see if you have any blisters, and we also do taps and everything and sing the Air Force song. So our across the hall mates were Cadet Smalley and Cadet Tila, and Cadet Smalley was the jokester of our flight. He was always making everyone crack up, and just his face made you laugh. And at night when we did lights out, you look ahead and he would just stare at you and just, I don't know, he always made us crack up. And Parker and I were always trying not to die of laughter, especially during like the Air Force song, because he would sing it so, I don't know, he would just be so extra when he sang it. Going along with foot checks, there was this cadet in our flight. He was actually another one-year cadet. He was the only other one-year cadet that was in our flight, which I was a one-year cadet if you didn't know. But he was very, how do I explain Cadet Wormstein? I really don't know how to explain him. He was just very, he did things and he was being serious, but the way that he said them made it sound like he was joking. For example, when we were doing foot checks, our FTO comes around and he says, he asks you how you're doing, whatever. Cadet Wormstein, he said, well, Captain, I'm not gonna say his name, but well, Captain blah blah blah, I've actually been nursing a headache these past couple of days. And the whole flight, just the way that he said it, the whole flight starts dying of laughter. And even I think our CTA might have laughed. I don't know at this point if he was laughing or not, because he didn't loosen up until the end. But it was so funny, and just the way that he said it, and it was also Wormstein, like, I don't know, but yeah, that was pretty funny. Back to TD2, during the PT test, we had an ORI that day, and my roommate actually, this isn't a funny story, this is just something that happened, and learn from this. I don't know why this happened. Maybe it was just because of the heat. Definitely because of the heat, maybe not hydrated enough, but she passed out, my roommate did, during the ORI. And it was pretty scary because we were all just standing there, and they had gotten back to the third row and they were inspecting them. And obviously you're looking forward, so you don't know what's going on. But she passed out, and and she was in my row, and the person next to me kind of runs away, and it was really quiet, and then everyone starts like moving, and I look over and I see that she's on the ground, and I was like, what the heck? So yeah, she actually came like back. She wasn't passed out very long. She passed out, and then I feel like once she got to the ground, she kind of came back. But that was really scary. So make sure you're drinking enough water, and if you feel lightheaded, let your CTA know. Don't be afraid to let them know. I think that she actually was saying that she felt like she was gonna throw up, and then she passed out. So if you have any symptoms, make sure you tell your CTA. Another thing that happened was we had gotten back from somewhere, and I think it was in the beginning of field training, because, well, you'll see why in a second. So my CTA tells me to stay back, and I'm like, oh great, what did I do this time? Because the last time I had to stay back, I got a Form 17 for not having my lock right, and he asked me if I had pooped yet, and it was the most awkward thing ever. I was just like, yeah, I did, because we have to write memorandums saying the last time we pooped, and I didn't poop the first couple of days while I was at field training. I think it was the MREs were backing me up, or I was just nervous. I don't know. I didn't poop the first couple of days, and I wrote that on my thing, but I ended up pooping, this sounds so weird, I ended up pooping like the night before that, so like after I turned in my memorandum for that day. And the next morning, I don't know, it was just really awkward because my CTA had to ask me about my bowel movements. So yeah, that was awkward. And speaking of my CTA asking me to stay behind, another time after we got back from somewhere, he told me to stay behind again, and I was like, how am I messing up so much? And this time I actually wasn't in trouble again. It was just something that had to do with, he asked me if I had gone to medical yet for my blisters, because they were like kind of bad, but not, I wasn't gonna go to medical for them. But yeah, that's why he asked me to stay behind, but my heart was racing because, so we did a drug test while we were down there, and this was the same day. And even though I knew I didn't do any drugs, I knew nothing was wrong there, as soon as I got back from the drug testing, he asked me to stay behind. And I was like, did I take like an Advil and it showed up or something? I don't know what was going on, but I was freaking out because I was like, what's going on? And he just asked me if I went to medical, and I was like, why? Because I still was thinking, oh no. And he just asked me if it was because of my blisters. For a majority of the middle of field training, you're going to different places and having lessons, and during those lessons, don't fall asleep, pay attention. One of the things that we had to learn, we were doing building, clearing buildings. So if you're like where you bust down the door and then one person goes one way, the other person goes this way, and then whatever, and you clear the building. And I was the team lead on that. Our team did really, really good, and the CTA gave me a 341 for excellence for that. And that was my, I got two 341s for excellence. So you can get a 341 for excellence, which is rare, or you can get a 341 for bad things, which is a lot more common. I got two 341s for excellence while I was down there. One of them was the one I just told you about, the building clearing procedures, and then the second one was just really silly, kind of. This was towards the end of field training, and I was talking to my CTA about how the rankings worked and how DG works and stuff like that. I didn't want DG, I was just curious how it worked. So he was telling me how DG is gonna be the top 10% out of the 417 cadets we have, or something like that, is what he said, because he didn't know how many were there. And I told him, I was like, oh, we actually have 403. And he looked at me and he was like, give me a 341. I was like, am I getting a 341 for being weird, for knowing that? Or no, he asked me how I knew that first. And I told him that when the squadrons were reporting accountability during retreat, I added it up in my head because I was curious. And I don't know, I just thought he was giving, and then after I told him that, he said, give me a 341. And I was like, is it because I'm weird? Like, I was kind of confused, but it was actually a 341 for excellence for, I don't remember exactly what he said it was for. I guess like something accountability. I have no idea, but I thought that was kind of funny. Something else that happened while we were down there is we do paintball, and you have to go out in a field and you're sweating, and it's really, I don't know, it's just, you're sweating, and I wore glasses and I had a mask and it was foggy, I couldn't see, so then I took my glasses off, and then I still couldn't see because I was blind, but it was like not double fog, but I don't know. Anyways, when we were doing that, we were walking through this field, and it's not a field that's it's not a field that's used often. I'm pretty sure it's just a field that we use. And we saw a snake, and I was freaking out because I hate snakes. They're one of my biggest fears, and we're laying down. We didn't see it when we were laying down, but we did lay down in the grass a lot, like face into the grass laying down, and I would see spiders, and I would see bugs. I'm like, if they're over there crawling right in front of my face, they're probably underneath of me too. And then we saw that snake, and I was like, oh boy. Another thing, I actually need to give someone from my flight a shout out because he asked me to give him a shout out, and I told him I would. Okay, so I don't remember what day this was, but we were patrolling the base for one of the scenarios, and I was walking with this other cadet in my flight. It was Cadet Arroyo, so hey Arroyo, if you're watching this, what's up? We were patrolling, and he actually, I don't know how he brought it up, but he was like, hey, so I didn't want to bring this up before because I didn't want you to, or I don't know what he said exactly, but he ended up telling me that he watches my YouTube videos, and he saw that I was coming to Max 3, and he was like, oh, that's cool, she's gonna be in the same max as I am, and then we ended up being in the same flight, and he was just like, whoa. And I thought that was really cool, because someone that watches my YouTube videos before I went down there actually ended up being in the same flight as me, so I thought that was really, really cool. What normally happens when people recognize me is they'll watch my videos, and then they'll meet me, and then they'll kind of put 2 and 2 together and then say, do you have YouTube? Don't remember what date it was. Actually, I think this was graduation day. We were in our blues, and I never have been on, I don't know, I've never worn my blues on my YouTube channel, and like, I wasn't wearing any makeup. I had my glasses on. I feel like I didn't look the same or like pretty recognizable. I don't know. But it was graduation day, so I was in my blues, and I went to the bathroom, and I walk in, and there's a bunch of girls kind of in the like hallway in the beginning before the stalls were, and I was like, oh, are you guys in line? And they said no, and then I start to walk away, and then this girl said, hey, I watch your YouTube videos, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. Like, I didn't know what to, that's literally what I said and how I said it. I feel like I sounded like such a loser, but I just thought that was the coolest thing ever that someone recognized. I don't know, but yeah, that made me really happy, and I was just like, that's really, really cool. I just thought of another really funny story about something where I screwed up yet again. I did a really dumb thing. So it was the night before we left for Vigilant Warrior, so VW. If I reference VW, it's Vigilant Warrior, which is a deployed scenario that we go on like a 2-hour bus ride, I think it was. We go, and I don't want to say too much about it, but it's basically, it's a deployed environment, and yeah. So we're packing for Vigilant Warrior, and the cadet that was in charge of supply was Cadet Tila, which is one of the cadets that was right across the hall from us. Me, Parker, Smalley, and Tila were kind of like pretty close. I don't know. Our whole flight was close, so I don't know, but we were like pretty close with them because they were right across the hall from us. And Cadet Tila kept going around the rooms and making sure that everyone had everything that they needed to go to VW. And there was a checklist that you had to go through. And I don't remember exactly what I needed, and I'm pretty sure it was something, I don't know if it was stupid, I don't know, I'm really, whatever. So, at this point, we're out of our ABUs, we're all wearing PTGs, and Cadet Tila walks by, or so I thought it was Cadet Tila, and I said, hey, Cadet Tila, is that you? It wasn't Cadet Tila, it was our CTA. And he was like, hey, no, it's CTA blank. And I was like, when he said that, I started dying, and our doors are open because your doors have to stay open at all times. So Smalley and Tila heard it, and then Parker was sitting there, and they were all busting out laughing. And I was laughing, but I was also super embarrassed on the inside because I was like, why did you just do that? Oh, so something else that happened while I was at VW, I'm not really going to say much about VW, but this is something that's not really going to give anything away. While we were there, I got really dehydrated. I was trying not to use the bathroom as much while I was down there, so I wasn't drinking as much, and you're sweating while you're down there. And this really contradicts something I said earlier about when my roommate passed out and how I was saying, oh, make sure you're drinking water. Well, I wasn't drinking enough water, and this is another reason why you should be drinking enough water. But I wasn't drinking a lot of water because we would go on a scenario and we would be out in the woods for hours at a time where there's no bathroom, and I didn't want to be the one person saying, oh, can I, like, you can't really go back. You can, but it's really inconvenient. So I wasn't drinking as much water because I didn't want to have to use the restroom, and I ended up throwing up and almost passing out, and medical had to get called, and they did a test on me. I don't know, they had me stand up, and they were taking my blood pressure and my heart rate and everything, and they were saying that I was really, really dehydrated, and so I had to get an IV, and that, yeah. So yeah, I think that's pretty much all the stories I have. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, and comment down below if you have any questions or comments, or if you have any of your own stories, please leave them down below because I would love to hear them. If you went to field training years in the past, or if you just went, I don't care. Leave your stories down below. I really want to hear some other people's stories. If you have any awkward stories, that would be great. Make me feel a little less dumb about the stuff I did. But yeah, thank you for watching.